bro.
These infamous scenes are being banned in more and more states.
Sit down.
The police in these recordings are not necessarily the ones breaking the law. It's the people recording the police. Recording audio of law enforcement without their consent is considered a crime in a dozen states, including Illinois.
It sounds like a plot in a movie. To call what I did a crime is ridiculous.
Michael Allison publicly recorded law enforcement in Robinson, Illinois. Now he's charged with 5 felonies with up to 15 years in prison for each count. That's a total of 75 years if convicted.
75 years in prison. And it's just so unbelievable.
Allison could spend the rest of his life behind bars. The 42-year-old is out on bail preparing to stand trial. The crime he's accused of? Eavesdropping.
This doesn't make any sense, and for one thing, the statute as it's written can be interpreted any which way.
Illinois is one of the states applying old eavesdropping and wiretapping statutes to new technologies like cell phones or anything else that records audio. Those laws technically make it illegal to record on-duty law enforcement officials without their consent. The penalty for that crime here in Illinois is the same as rape.
They're actually trying to say that I have committed a crime and it's a Class 1 felony.
As bad as rape.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
It is an extremely serious offense.
Chapin Rose worked as a prosecutor in nearby Coles County a few years ago. Rose saw the problems with Illinois' eavesdropping law as new recording technologies came along.
It dawned on me at the time that, this is, going to get crazy. But
now Michael Allison is heading to trial for recording on-duty law enforcement officials in public. Similar cases across the country have ended with the charges being reduced or dropped. Allison is being prosecuted by Crawford County State's Attorney Tom Wiseman. Wiseman refused to talk to us about this case or the eavesdropping law.
They're using it as written and as applied as a shield law to protect public officials from any kind of public scrutiny.
As a prosecutor, I like having that evidence.
Former prosecutor Chapin Rose says recordings can prove or disprove accusations of wrongdoing to protect citizens as well as police officers.
There's some just don't like the idea of having to deal with it. I mean, they want, the first thing you're taught in police academy is to be in control of the situation.
Rose has since become a state representative and has tried to legalize audio recordings. He introduced a bill to try to overturn Illinois' eavesdropping law, but the bill died in committee.
The law is the law now, and I didn't have any real support to change it. I just thought for the general safety of the public, police officer safety, it'd be nice to have some bright line rules for the when-where of recording. Never got any support on it.
The law is affecting Michael Allison because he recorded police when they'd stop by his mother's house where he repaired old cars.
I wanted to document my own words and any evidence of any kind of threats, harassment, intimidation.
Officers said his unregistered cars violated a local ordinance. They eventually fined Allison and confiscated his cars. Allison went to the Robinson Police Department with his recorder in hand. He told Chief Bill Ackman, seen here in this file video, that his officers selectively and illegally enforced the ordinance. Allison eventually filed a lawsuit. Allison thinks that's why he was denied a court reporter during his ordinance hearing. So Allison told the judge he would record the hearing himself for documentation. Police later confiscated Allison's recorder. They also arrested him on 5 felony eavesdropping charges for everything he had recorded.
It's the first time in my entire life I'd ever been arrested or accused of a crime or anything.
Chief Ackman never returned our calls about arresting Allison on eavesdropping charges. While we were recording video inside the courthouse for this report, a sheriff's deputy came out of a courtroom and asked us why we were recording.
Does it matter?
My response you just heard in that off-camera conversation is the only audio we can play for you. Our lawyers advised us not to let you hear the deputy because we didn't have his consent to record him. It's the same law that got Michael Allison arrested. It's not just Allison. A similar situation happened to another Illinois man. This YouTube video shows Chicago police arresting Christopher Drew for selling art without a permit. Drew also had an audio recorder in his pocket, but never had the consent of police to record their comments. Now, Drew is heading to trial for eavesdropping and could go to prison for what you just saw. The Illinois eavesdropping statute actually protects police, whether it's dash cam videos or even sting operations. The state law allows police officers to record citizens without their consent.
If you turn on a recorder to record the exact same conversation that they are recording, you're considered a felon, and they're protected by the statute.
All these police officers who were recorded tasing, punching, or shoving unarmed citizens, none of them served any prison time. The California police officer who shot this man in the back and killed him, he's serving 2 years in prison. But Michael Allison, who recorded law enforcement officials in public without their consent, he faces up to 75 years in prison.
By me going through it is going to help other people in Illinois and possibly other states across the country that are dealing with the same situation. By going as far as what it has, it may be the opportunity to defeat the statute. If they was to find me guilty on all 5 counts for 75 years, I think that the headlines for that would be very telling.
One headline for that verdict might read, "Go to prison if you record police without their consent."
There's a pick in your pocket.
Ain't no pick, man.
No?
Ain't nothing but
What is
a
it,
napkin.
napkin?
Yes. I just got out the house, man. I'm sick, man.
Sick. Good.
I been drinking last night, man. Just got over my sickness, man. Just came out the house like 10 minutes ago. Got picked up.
You guys need something?
This is my front yard. I'm just recording what you're doing. It's my right.
Actually, not from the sidewalk.
This is my yard.
I don't feel safe with you standing behind me. Somebody asks you to go in your house. You understand? I don't feel safe with you standing behind me. And you seem to be very anti-police, so I don't feel safe with you standing behind me. Do you mind standing in the house?
I'm gonna stand in my yard if that's okay.
Due to what you said to me before you started taping, I think you need to stay in your house, guys.
What did I say to you that offended you?
I'm behind us officers when we're doing a traffic stop.
I'm allowed to stand in my yard.
Go stand in your house.
I'm allowed to stand in my yard. I'm going to stay in my...
I'm going to ask you one more time. We don't feel safe with you standing right behind us when we're doing a traffic stop. I'm going to ask you to go into the house.
What?
No?
It's my right to be in my yard, and I'm sorry that you don't feel safe. All I have is a camera. I'm clearly wearing nothing. I have no weapons.
That does not matter. You're not listening to our orders right now. We don't feel safe with you standing behind us. You're not moving even a foot further back. You're going to be.
Do you want me to move a foot further back?
You're going to be under arrest. I already warned you.
I will move a foot further back. I'm not going to go inside my house. I feel like I need the fresh air right now.
Well, I'm going to arrest someone for not following police orders when we're asking her to
I'm
step
asking
back.
you what
It
the
seems
order...
very simple.
I don't understand your order.
To not stand behind us, okay?
You didn't ask me to not stand behind you.
Okay, listen, I'm not going to explain myself to you. What you're going to do is you're going to end up going to jail. I'm trying to give you a warning. Okay?
I'm going to back up.
You know what? You're going to go to jail. That's just not right.
Where's the car? What's going on?
No. Stay right here.
I'm
Stay
sorry.
Right here.
I'm asking them I'm observing what they're doing and they're arresting me. I don't understand what's going on. I did nothing.
I'm not doing anything.
I know you didn't. I'm a witness.
Unreal.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. I was standing in my front yard, concerned about what was going on in my neighborhood, and you're arresting me. What the hell is going on?
During this wreck, veteran El Paso reporter Darren Hunt and photojournalist Rick DuPont were both handcuffed and detained by police. Darren and Rick came up on the crash minutes after it happened and stopped on the shoulder on the eastbound lanes opposite the wreck. They were conducting interviews when Sergeant Ramirez ordered them to leave. Watch for yourself what happened.
You get in your truck and
we're going to talk to this guy real quick.
No, negative, sir. You will get in your truck and move.
Hey? We're doing our job.
You press that trigger, boy. Get in your truck and move. Get in your truck and move.
Shoot if he wants to.
Do you want me to arrest you?
No, I don't.
Do you want me to arrest you? Then you get in your truck and you move. Hey, I don't care. I'm telling you something. I'm giving you an order. You know what?
I didn't do anything.
You want to get arrested?
No. Okay. Just we'll go. I'll go. It's fine. I'll go. I'm not.
You know what? You're not going.
I'm not resisting.
You're not going.
Look, I can get the truck and pick him up.
Go get in the truck before you go too.
Can you let him go?
Hands off the truck!
I didn't do anything.
Get your hands off the truck!
Look, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything, sir. I haven't done a thing. I'm just trying to leave, sir. Let me get the microphone.
I'm not doing anything! Get out!
I'm going. I'm taking off. What are you doing? You can't do that.
Put your hands behind your back! Put your hands behind your back!
What law is that?
Sir, I'm just giving you your warnings right now. If you dance and demonstrate...
But we're not demonstrating.
If you're dancing in here, you were demonstrating as a form of demonstration.
What is dancing? What if you're out of time when you're making movement with your body? Is that still dancing?
Guys, stop.
You can go to jail for doing that.
You're not allowed to have free expression or free speech in the memorial to Thomas Jefferson, the champion of free speech.
We're moving, man. We're in love. Touching each other. We're stopping. We're stopping. We're stopping. You are not arresting us for standing
For
here.
what? Here it is.
You didn't even give me a warning.
Dancing in the public area.
You didn't give me a warning.
Dancing in the public area.
You didn't even give me a warning.
We can dance if we want to. We can leave our friends behind. Because if cops don't dance and if they don't dance with us, no friends of mine. Unbelievable.
Said something, I would have stopped. Say anything. You did not say anything. Who did? Wait, where's the sergeant? I don't even know who the sergeant is. I didn't
You're allowed to dance in America, sir.
You hate the Constitution.
Excuse me, sir. Did you ever talk to me?
You hate America.
Hey, Sergeant. First up, Sergeant, did you talk to me? Sergeant.
Man, you can stop.
Did you talk to me? Sergeant, did you talk to me?
Watch my arm! Watch my arm! Watch my arm! Don't, I got a broken shoulder. I've got a bad shoulder.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back, sir.
Stop resisting. Stop resisting.
This is America.
An Oak Park woman goes before a judge. Her crime, growing vegetables in her yard.
Turns out that a veggie garden in front of the house is against the city code. Fox 2's Alexis Wiley reports.
The price of organic food is kind of through the roof.
So why not grow your own?
These are pepper plants. This one is a jalapeno. You can see there's a little baby jalapeno right here, which is super cute and one of our favorites.
But Julie Bass's garden is a little unique because it's in her front yard.
We thought it'd be really cool to do it so the neighbors could see. The kids love it. The kids from the neighborhood all come and help.
But Julie's cool garden has landed her in hot water with the city of Oak Park. Code enforcement gave her a warning, then a ticket, and now she's been charged with a misdemeanor.
I think it's sad that the city of Oak Park, that's already strapped for cash, is paying a lot of money to have a prosecutor bothering us.
That's not what we want to see in our front yard.
Why? Well, the city is pointing to a code that says a front yard has to have suitable live plant material. But here's the big question. What's suitable? Do you think that this is suitable live plant material?
It's definitely live. It's definitely plant. It's definitely material. We think it's suitable.
Why is this not suitable?
Well, if you look at the definition of what suitable is in Webster's dictionary, it'll say common. So if you look around and you look in any other community, what's common to a front yard is a nice grass yard with beautiful trees and bushes and flowers.
But when you look at front yards like this and this, is Julie's vegetable garden really worth the city's time and money? What do you say to those who say, this is ridiculous?
Well, I would argue that you won't find that opinion from most people in Oak Park.
That's ridiculous.
I have a bunch of little children. I want to take walks to come by and see everything growing. I think it's a very wonderful thing for our neighborhood.
They don't have nothing else to do. They're going to take her to court for a garden.
Joshua Kelly and Lara Brook, both from Chantilly, Virginia, spent the night in jail Saturday because they asked a Baltimore City police officer for directions.
In jail for 8 hours, sleeping on a concrete floor next to a toilet.
It was a nightmare. I mean, I was in there just thinking that I was dreaming and waiting to wake up.
It was a nightmare ending to a nearly perfect day. The couple went to a company picnic. They watched the Orioles beat Kansas City. It was their first trip to Camden Yards. Leaving, they asked 2 people for directions to 95 South. And somehow ended up in the Cherry Hill section of South Baltimore, hopelessly lost. Relief melted away concerns after they spotted a police vehicle.
I said, thank goodness. I said, can you please get us to 95?
The first thing that she said to us was, you know, you just ran that stop sign, pull over. So it wasn't a big deal. We said, we'll pay the stop sign violation, but can we have directions?
What she said is, you found your own way in here, you can find your own way out.
The couple saw another police vehicle and flagged that officer down for directions. But Officer Natalie Preston, a 6-year veteran of the force, intervened.
That threw us through a loop when she stepped in between our cars and said, my partner is not going to step in front of me and tell you directions if I'm not.
But things got worse. Joshua pulled 40 feet forward, parking next to a curb, putting his flashers on. Meanwhile, Lara was on the phone to her father, hoping he could help her with directions. Both her parents are police officers in the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area.
And was in the middle of giving us directions when the officer screeched up behind us and got out of the car and asked me to step out. I obeyed. I obeyed everything, stepped out of the car, put my hands behind my back, and next thing you know, I was getting arrested.
A complete overreaction. That statement tonight from New York City's Department of Education over the treatment of a 12-year-old student. She was hauled out of class in handcuffs by police for doodling "I love my friends" on her desk. Tonight, her family is outraged and speaking to Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles.
Lex was here, 2110, and my signature smiley face.
A few innocent words written in erasable ink. Now the 12-year-old author, Alexa Gonzalez, will never forget the horrifying experience they led to.
She pulled me to the dean and she told me that, you know, you might get arrested for this because you wrote on school property.
And she did. On Monday, the 7th grader at Junior High School 190 in Forest Hills got caught doodling on her desk. The principal called the police, who then placed her in handcuffs and took her across the street to the precinct.
I received a call at work telling me I had to come down right away immediately because Alexa was caught writing on her desk, and there could be an arrest because it was against the law.
Come on in, sir. $40.
At the U.S. Open, apparently there are good entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much.
And bad entrepreneurs.
So this gentleman from Montgomery County is now telling us that because we don't have a vendor's license, the children won't be allowed to sell their lemonade.
The Marriott and Augustine kids, these are the bad ones.
I don't agree. I think the county's wrong. Percent of the money to charity.
A county inspector fined them $500 for, get this, operating a lemonade stand without a permit.
Does every kid now who sells lemonade have to register with the county?
Kids selling lemonade making $5, $10 is a little bit different than making hundreds. You've got coolers and coolers full of drinks here.
To raise money.
And you're saying
for pediatric cancer.
Right next to, follow me.
These guys, on the other hand, are the good entrepreneurs.
Making some money, ain't you? I think so.
They paid the county nearly $300 for the right to park people on their front lawns.
The farther you get away from the course, the cheaper it gets.
Really?
Next door they're 50.
And
here they're 40.
Nice.
That way they're 30.
Kind of amazing that these people with these beautiful homes would allow all these people to
park on their flowers.
One guy was even charging $60, but it was that or park miles away and take a crowded shuttle in. One cop says a homeowner out here told her he was making enough to put his kids through college. $56,000 a year to put your kid through GW. Could they really be making that much?
I'm a little upset with the rip-off that's going on.
But probably nowhere near as mad as Carrie Marriott.
The message to kids is,
there's no American dream.
Donna, you're from San Diego, and there's been a lot of problems in San Diego, and you've been involved in a couple of them, haven't you?
I have.
Yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about what's been happening to you there?
Sure. I'm currently facing trial for 9 felonies for...
Wait a minute. Only 9. That doesn't sound like enough.
No. It wasn't enough because up until a couple weeks ago it was 7.
And now they made it 9.
They made it 9 the day after they lost their second medical marijuana case.
Oh. So tell us about tell us about your case. What's going on? How did this happen?
Well, I was on chemotherapy in 2005. I was very sick. The doctor recommended medical marijuana, and I became involved in growing and collective activity, and ended up with a raid on my house and guns pointed at me and everything else.
Now, they raided your house. Was this your own personal grow, or were you growing for some other people?
I was growing for other people, too.
How many plants did you have?
Oh, I didn't have any when they raided my house.
Wait a minute here. You didn't have any plants and they raided your house? What did they raid you for then?
I don't know. I never saw a signed arrest warrant, and they raided my house 5 months after I provided medical marijuana to another patient.
What are they charging you with?
2 counts of sales, 3 counts of possession with intent to sell, 2 counts of transportation, and 2 counts of commission of a felony and possessing a handgun or something.
Is this federal or state?
State.
It was a relationship that, according to court documents, started on Craigslist. Marcus Searle says he placed an ad for sex and the deputy responded. After one consensual encounter, Searle says he wanted to break things off and told the deputy he was interested in opening a marijuana dispensary. That's when he says the relationship took a turn for the worse and the deputy started making demands.
Demanded sex from Mr. Searles in order to allow Mr. Searles to operate a medical marijuana dispensary. We believe this relationship went on for several months. We believe there were about 15 non-consensual sex acts between these two people.
According to court documents, at times, the sex was violent, and on one occasion, the deputy slammed Searle's face into the hood of the car with such force that it broke one of Searle's teeth.
This was rape under color of authority, and it was a violation of my client's civil rights.
Searle says the deputy also stalked him, and he feared for his safety. The deputy was questioned by his commanders and placed on paid administrative leave.
We have had a mind programming exercise called the War on Drugs for the last 40 years, which has been designed to create an internal enemy in our societies and convince people that there are these evil, wicked groups who are doing these terrible, sinful things, smoking these drugs and doing this and that. And there's a very dark image has been created around it, and people get very upset irrationally about this whole issue. And actually what's been forgotten in all of this, and for me has become, I regard it as an extremely important issue, is that when the state sends us to prison for essentially exploring our own consciousness, this is a grotesque abuse of human rights. It's a fundamental wrong. If I, as an adult, am not, sovereign over my own consciousness, then I'm absolutely not sovereign over anything. I can't claim any kind of freedom at all. And what has happened over the last 40 or 50 years under the disguise of the war on drugs is that we have been persuaded to hand over the keys of our consciousness to the state. The most precious, the most intimate, the most sapient part of ourselves, the state now has the keys. And furthermore, they've persuaded us that that's in our interests. This is a very dangerous situation. Funded with our money, our taxpayers' money, there has been 40 years of programming, more than 40 years on this subject, to make us all develop a kind of aversion, a fear, a hatred, a horror of drugs. And it's just fundamentally wrong in so many ways. Look, quite a number of illegal drugs are actually really bad and really dangerous, and they will totally fuck you up in all kinds of ways. But I believe that the sovereignty of the adult over his or her own body and his or her own mind trumps everything else. Sure. And we must have the right to make our mistakes. Yes. You know, we already have laws in our society for punishing bad behavior. If somebody on drugs goes out and gets in somebody else's face and causes them trouble, we already have laws to deal with that. We don't need new laws that control our consciousness and rigidly place it in a prison and actually place us in prison. If that's what you want to do, if that's your adult decision, that's your choice. What does liberty mean if it doesn't mean that? It's led to the creation of huge armed bureaucracies who have the right to break into our homes, smash down our doors, humiliate us in every possible way, ruin our lives with criminal records, and all because what? We're smoking some natural herb, which affects our own consciousness in some way. So again, I say, if we get into the faces of others, the state may have a role to play, and it does, and it already has elaborate rules for dealing with that. But for the state to have transgressed the consciousness of free sovereign adults is a grotesque abuse of human rights. And it doesn't work. This is the other thing. If the state could turn around and say, the war on drugs has worked, we have reduced the consumption of this, that, it's not true. They haven't reduced the consumption of any drugs. The consumption of all illegal drugs has gone up. If the state was really interested in helping us, this is how the war on drugs is presented. We're concerned about your health, so we're going to send you to prison. You know, we're concerned about the harm this drug is doing to you, so we're going to send you to prison. What's more harmful, the harm the drug is doing or being sent to prison? It seems to me pretty obvious that the being sent to prison is a much more harmful thing that's being done. If the state was really concerned about harm, then the solution is not to criminalize people for taking drugs. The solution is to present them with very good information which they believe. Part of the problem is that the state has become to be regarded as so corrupt that any message emanating from the state about drugs is not believed anymore, completely disbelieved. So you know, once again, we come to this issue of adult sovereignty over consciousness. And our right also to make mistakes with our own body if we do that. That's what I believe we're here on this earth to learn and to grow and to develop. And we have to have adult responsibility to do that.
I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no pain.
Good morning, officer.
Sir, can you turn the music down? Down means off. You know I pulled you over this morning?
Well, I'm pretty sure I wasn't speeding. I've been using the cruise control, so I don't...
No, sir. Your windshield. License and registration, please.
this was from Wayfarer 515. My house was in the debris field. Okay. And that's what shattered my windshield, some piece of wreckage from the plane.
I understand.
You know of Flight 515, the plane crash? You're wearing the ribbon?
Yes, sir. I'm quite aware of Wayfarer 515. I was one of the first responders on scene that day.
Then what are you doing?
Citing you, sir.
What? What, you don't believe me?
Sir, regardless of how that windshield was damaged, this car is unsafe to drive in this condition. Stay in the car, please.
Wait just a minute. Just 1 minute.
Sir, I asked you to stay in the vehicle.
No. I can get out of my own car.
Sir, listen.
No. You listen to me. It's time for you to listen to me.
Sir, what you need to do is take a deep breath.
This is
calm
America,
down, and get back in that
I have
car
rights.
right now.
Do you understand that? At least have the common decency to hear me out.
I need you to step back right now.
Did you even hear what I said?
Sir, calm down.
Now you're giving me a ticket? I told you that my house was in the debris field. Do you have the remotest inkling of what that means?
Sir, calm down.
Hellfire rained down on my house
I need
where
you
my
to step
children
back.
sleep.
I need you to step back
There were
right
body
now.
parts in my yard.
Sir, this is
kidding
your
me?
last warning.
Gotta be kidding me.
You got about 2 seconds to stand down, or I'm going to pepper spray.
Oh, you're going to pepper spray?
You understand
perfect. That is just perfect. Pepper spray the man who's expressing his opinion under the First Amendment.
Do you feel we're any closer to winning the war on drugs based on all of the problems with Mexico and the cartels and the fights over our border and the drugs being imported from Mexico than we were last year?
Well, whether you call it a war on drugs or some other term, I mean, I firmly believe that we need to do what we should to stem both drug trafficking into the United States and drug usage in the United States. And I do believe there have been some successes, particularly when it comes to the use of drugs by children in high school or college and the like. There are others in the at ONDCP and others who are much more familiar with that than I am.
You say some successes. Do you have any statistics to show? Statistics I see say that more people are using, say, marijuana than have, because the public doesn't has a feeling about use of certain drugs that maybe the FBI doesn't. Is there a better way, and some people have suggested looking into a system of legalization that might be effective in stemming the tide of drugs from Mexico and then the border wars and the immigration problems from Mexico? Have you considered this as a possibility?
I think anybody who looks at this problem considers it, and ultimately when you look at it, rejects it. I tend to think that the use of particular drugs goes in waves. You'll have marijuana for a period of time, then you'll have heroin, then you'll have cocaine, then you'll have crack cocaine, then you'll have methamphetamine, and then you'll have OxyContin, and it goes in waves. And
let me ask you about
the
way
people. I'm sorry, but there are too many individuals, both parents and others, who have lost their lives to drugs to give a ready answer that it should be legalized.
I agree with you, sir, and there are lots of parents who've lost their lives to crack, cocaine, methamphetamines, and heroin, and they've somewhat gone in waves. Name me a couple of parents who've lost their lives to marijuana.
Can't.
Exactly, you can't, because that hadn't happened.
1 minute, a special needs student was walking down the hall in school. The next, he says he was thrown against the lockers, then to the ground by a police officer. What happened? You're about to see the video for yourself. 2 investigator Dave Savini has the story of a painful lesson.
Security cameras are about to capture the beating of this 15-year-old special education student by a police officer.
So he was shouting at you and he was swearing at you?
Yeah.
Marshawn Pitts says the officer started by verbally abusing him because his shirt wasn't tucked in.
I was tucking my shirt in.
But it's what happens next after the officer puts down his coffee that had Marshawn Pitts worried for his life.
It was just like, boom.
He says he was blindsided by the officer, thrown into lockers, and struck repeatedly.
Where did he hit you?
He hit me like right here, and boom.
Watch as he gets slammed to the ground, his face smashed into the floor.
It still has a bump.
Right here.
His nose was broken.
Were you bleeding? Did you know it was your face?
All this was like all on the outside. My mouth was busted.
Violent and unnecessary treatment, he says, considering he was attending the Academy for Learning in Dalton for students like him with special education needs. When he was younger, he suffered a brain injury and now has a learning disability.
So this school was for students with special needs? And they were supposed to help you and understand your situation?
Yeah, but instead I got beaten on by the police.
The officer was in his face because he didn't have his shirt tucked in.
Ed Mansky is Marshawn's attorney.
And that's the officer put in that school to protect these kids. And instead of doing that, this officer is literally assaulting this kid.
That's a big officer, too.
The officer in question was a Dalton police officer, and the hold he puts Marshawn in can be a dangerous one.
He's on top of this
Right.
young man, okay?
Right.
That's called a face-down takedown.
Yes.
This type of physical restraint has killed students, says Zena Nadich from Equip for Equality, a legal advocacy group that fights for the rights of people with disabilities.
It's called a face-down takedown.
A face-down takedown.
Takedown, and kids often, and adults, die because they can't breathe.
This government accounting office report was released in May, just one day before the officer's use of the hold on Marshawn. The GAO study found face-down takedowns led to at least 20 deaths nationwide. Currently, 8 states prohibit the use of this hold. Illinois is not one of them.
So we don't actually know how common these incidents are, and that's outrageous.
I couldn't breathe.
Were you begging him to stop?
Yeah, I was like, let me up.
He's getting a beating, and he's getting a beating on an issue that has nothing to do with danger. It has to do with dress code.
I don't want this to happen to somebody else.
Greg Steffi and his wife Hope are suing the Stark County Sheriff, accusing deputies of using excessive and outrageous force, an allegation the sheriff denies. But Steffi says this video, shot by deputies and obtained by Channel 3 News, speaks for itself. This case got started with a call to 911 for help. Greg's wife was injured when a cousin assaulted her. When she had someone call the Stark County Sheriff, her troubles got worse, a lot worse. They say a deputy was confused when he arrived at the location where the attack occurred. They say he began treating the injured Steffi not as the victim, but as the troublemaker.
He proceeded to pick her up off the ground and slam her onto the ground.
Oddly enough, the sheriff's dash cam video wasn't turned on when all this was happening.
That's a big question.
The dash cam wasn't rolling until shortly before Steffi was placed in the back of the officer's squad car. And there's much the Steffi say happens before then and not caught on tape.
She can't breathe. She's down face first. He's got all the air out of her.
That portion of the video either doesn't exist or wasn't released to Steffi's lawyers. When Steffi is hauled to jail, she says they roughed her up again before they pinned her down on a cell floor and took off all her clothes. Again, the sheriff denies the allegation. But is there even more video missing?
We believe there's still videotape out there.
Check out jailhouse surveillance video. A deputy's handheld camera appears to be rolling as Steffi was escorted to a cell. Her lawyers never received any of this tape, which might show Steffi knocked to the ground again.
They knocked her knees out from behind her, and that she was face first. I'd like to know why they felt it was important to do that.
The sheriff again denies the allegation, but there's no denying what happened in the video that Steffi's lawyers did obtain. Both male and female deputies inside a cell forcibly removing Steffi's clothes, including her bra and underwear.
She was never asked, not once, during any period of time, to take off your clothes, please, that there's a reason why, it was for total humiliation.
The Steffis and their lawyers say this is clearly a strip search, and the sheriff has policy for this procedure.
I've got the Stark County Sheriff's Department policy on strip searches. It says, and I quote, "The officers conducting the search must be of the same sex as the prisoner." This is Stark County Sheriff's policy.
That's common policy everywhere. They violated their own policy.
The sheriff's office admits deputies left Steffi completely naked in the cell for 6 hours, but they deny this was a strip search.
Hope Steffi was convicted on misdemeanor charges of resisting arrest and disorderly conduct. But most of the videos seen in this report was never shown at trial. Now the Steffis have evidence, and they want sheriff deputies held accountable.
Time for tonight's rewrite. This weekend, a few troublemakers turned a peaceful protest against Wall Street greed into a violent burst of chaos. The troublemakers carried pepper spray and guns and were wearing badges. We're not doing anything. You heard the woman say that as the police were grabbing people for absolutely no reason, crushing them on the pavement and arresting them. We're not doing anything. We will post all of the video that we have on this protest on our blog, and you won't find anyone doing anything that is legal grounds for arrest. Let's take another look at that unprovoked police brutality. The reason that man is being by the police is because of what he has in his hand. He's holding a professional-grade video camera. Since the Rodney King beating was caught on an amateur video camera, American police officers have known video cameras are their worst enemies. They will do anything they can to stop you from legally videotaping how they handle their responsibility to serve and protect you. So this police commander has decided that the correct response to that man shooting video is to grab him and smash his head into a parked Volvo. The commanders are recognizable by their white shirts. The white shirts indicate a rank of lieutenant or above. Here's another courageous commander showing his men how to control the citizenry. His target for showing how tough he is was an unarmed woman who he had to reach across the police security line to grab. And there was at least one unprovoked use of pepper spray. USLaw.com has posted a slow-motion version of the pepper spray incident, which, of course, shows there is no conceivable justification for the use of the pepper spray. As is usually the case in these situations, most of the police officers on the scene carried out their duties calmly and non-violently, like this one.
Guys, back please, thank you. Man, back please, man, thank you.
That's how you do it. Stand back, thank you. You respect those people.
During the scuffle, one officer, later identified as Johannes Messerly, pulls his gun and shoots Grant. Both the officers and the witnesses react in horror.
Breaking news right now, chaos erupts after a controversial police shooting in Anaheim. And tonight, the tension continues. Officers fire what appear to be beanbags and unleash a canine into a crowd of women and children.
I know my right. I don't give a shit.
I'm a peaceful protester. Officer, I'm peaceful. I will not ever fight back. Please, officer.
You're crushing the people.
Peaceful protester. You're hurting people. You're hurting people.
Feet out in front of you. Feet out in front of you. I'm not fucking around anymore, dude. I'm trying to be nice. Okay. Feet out in front of you. Feet out in front of you. Feet out in front of you. Bro. Hands on your fucking knees. Put your feet out in front of you. Well, which one is it, dude? Both. I can't do both. Well, you're gonna have to learn real quick. Put your hands on your knees. No. See my fist? Yeah, what about him? He's getting ready to fuck you up. Start punching, dude. You don't fucking stop this. It sucks. Okay? Put your fucking hands on your knees. Well, hey, I'm sick of playing games. Which one is it? Put your fucking hands on your knees. Would you just fucking... Put your hands... Would you just fucking... All right. Put your hands... Get on the ground now. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Okay, fuck, dude. Okay. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Put your hands on your back. Put your hands on your back. Put your hands on your back. Okay, okay. Okay. Put your hands on your back. Okay. Put your hands on your back. Oh, shit. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, dude. Right hand on your back. Okay. Right hand on your back. Okay, hang on a second. Hang on. Okay. I'm sorry, dude. Put your hand on your back. I'm sorry. Hand on your fucking stomach. Put your hand on your back. Stomach. Put your hand on your back. Okay. Hand on your stomach. Okay, I can't, dude. Hand on your back. Okay, I can't breathe, dude. Okay. Here, dude, I can't breathe, man. Fuck.
The prohibition of hemp and marijuana isn't just about the disregard for marijuana and states' rights. It's one aspect among many that are designed to control you, your family, friends, and the society that surrounds us all. The more openly the powers that be strip away our rights, the more dangerous it becomes. Laws are designed in such a fashion that everyone in this country is technically doing something illegal, from traffic laws, to neighbor laws, to consistently changing building codes, to disorderly conduct, to medical choices, to family laws, to marijuana use, and everything in between. They have found ways to fund control by fining you and incarcerating you. Governments ingeniously imprison small offenders and everyday people who are only guilty of merely exploring their own mind, consciousness, self-morale, and public morale offenses to turn them into harder criminals in order to survive. And they allow minor offenses to follow citizens, affecting their ability to work, to get housing, to get credit, and to tear down their will so that they are willing to become slaves for pennies, simply just to make ends meet. Giving rich fat cats more money, and most importantly, more power. Chances are these offenders will commit larger offenses, opening the door for grander penalties, which result in more blood to oil the machines designed to consume us all. And they repeat, taking down one more family at a time. Money gained from imprisoning citizens is used to fund the wallets of the federal and state officials, and some states such as Arizona rely so heavily on imprisoning their own citizens and creating more criminals that some public services and tending to the rich are funded on their demise alone. The state literally operates on incarcerating the people. You, your friends, and your family are simply money trees and slaves to keep the more prominent classes in luxury and wellness. But they won't stop there. The elite powers in our system use entertainment and media as a tool to cause paradigms such as TV, sex, racism, sports, politics, demographics, fashion, and fads to convince us that we actually care about these things in order to turn us against ourselves. The more we do their work for them, the easier their endgame will be, and it must happen, whether we like it or not. And what about our medical rights? And the human rights to live well and in peace while suffering painfully and terminally? Denying a patient treatment that eases suffering openly isn't just a display of cruelty, but a display of forcing the public to simply tolerate tyrannical actions. Sure, it's sad to watch patients in need suffer, but what really takes the cake is the fact that we allow it to happen. When a government can get away with forcing our sick and dying on such a disturbing plateau, they are one more step towards getting away with mass murder. And that's exactly what they're doing. Governments promote larger governments and preach eugenics because it's in their best interest for populations to shrink, essentially giving them more power. They will even tell convenient lies about global warming and weather conditions to convince us that there needs to be less of you. And if the public stops fighting and gets smaller, they will move in with tyrannical forces to make you a number, a slave, and forced to beg and serve to the elite, while making us all pay for the entire process. You and everyone on this planet deserves the right to have your own exploration of life. What you do with your own body and mind is to you to decide how you experience the world. Once any person, group, or government betrays that trust, you become a victim of slavery, and this will always be the case once we forget to continue to fight against it. We all have the power to take down the powers which seek to control you and destroy society. And there's only one way to do it.
Is illegally tasering me! I am defending myself!